going to go live. And I love when we go live. What's my favorite part of going live is when I know we're actually live.
Okay.
I don't know. I like it. It's like, oh, wow. And I love when we go live. What's my favorite part of going live? Just like that. Hey, we are live, everybody. And we have, well, I'll just say this. Welcome, everyone, to another amazing episode of Sharing the Magic. Tonight we're not gonna pause it and give grand intros. We just got a great conversation that's gonna happen, I think. Tonight we have C. McNair Wilson.
How'd you get him?
I don't know. How do
He's
we get him
expensive.
back? I thought we ran you away the first time that you were on our podcast.
He's expensive.
Yeah, he is. No, but well worth the price. That's what I've been told.
Go.
Well, all right. Would you like to? Let's just dive deep. Let's go. Do you like C. McNair? How do you like your name?
So I was speaking recently to a convention of university and college research directors.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do research. They direct the program and write the proposals.
Mm.
And I finished with my Recapturing Your Creative Spirit keynote, which is the most popular one I get requested. It's one of my 3 TED Talks. And it's the one that I wrote. If anybody's read my book, Hatch, Brainstorming Secrets of a Theme Park Designer.
Oh, wow.
I was surprised when I got to Imagineering that there wasn't a codified, organized way of creating.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all know the word brainstorming, but as I say on the back of Hatch, most brainstorming isn't brainstorming. It's playful arguing with snacks on the table. And the 7 agreements of brainstorming is a system whereby you get rid of the arguing and keep the snacks. That you can design, invent, create, fix anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I've used it to design to create the world's best 40th birthday party, where I rented the LA Memorial Coliseum, the only stadium in the world that's had the Olympics twice, and coming up in 2028 will be the 3rd time.
Wow.
And I had 50 friends on the 40-yard line, photos in Hatch, for my 40th birthday party. Anyway, so at the end of this thing, I get done with these research directors. Everybody in the room has a PhD. One guy has 7.
Wow.
I said, I want to meet him. I said, what's the deal with 7 PhDs? He said, it takes me 2 days a week to do my job. And then I go to classes. And if I go to classes, you earn points. Get enough points, you get another PhD. So my boss has 8. My goal is to have 9. I say, do 10 just to piss him off. And so this lady stands up. As I'm finishing, the lady says, you've got an hour. You only did 45 minutes. I said, we'll do Q&A. She and I, blah, blah, blah. So she goes to the mic and says, McNair's going to stay with us to do some Q&A. And everybody applauds. Well, stay with us. The program clearly indicated that I was doing 2 workshops after lunch. This was first thing in the morning. When I have a choice at a convention, I like to be the first speaker. Mm. The problem with that is other speakers who have heard me get upset because I set the bar too high. I say, I do what I do the way I do it. Yeah. Catch up. Anyway, this lady stands up right away and says, I went by your table and grabbed one of your books, and she's holding it up because it looked like you didn't have very many. I said, there's 200 under the table there. The ones that were out were just for display. She said, well, I left you $20. How much are they? I said, well, for you, $20. And I said, come by later, get another. She came by later and bought 5 more. I said, 5 more? She said, I know you're going to be this good. She said, now, on the front of the book, it says C. McNair Wilson. What does the C stand for? So I said, everybody watch, it's a visual. And I said, it stands for, and I did a mark on my stomach, stands for cesarean on my mother's side. And she said, oh, that's not funny. I said, okay, back off.
It's kind of
It's
funny.
true. It was my mother's side, and she likes that joke a lot. So knock it off.
Yeah. When
I came off the stage a half hour later, because the Q&A just kept going, and they're signaling from off stage, keep going. I've got lots of time. I think we did 35 minutes of Q&A after the 45-minute presentation. And she said, there were 3 ladies standing there. Now, remember, everybody in the room was a PhD except me. Mm-hmm. And he said, 3 ladies, I said, everything okay? Yeah. We're all cesarean moms and we like to joke a lot. And I said, well, spread it around, work the room. And it's that old thing about how we're all upset for somebody else. White people are worried about what black people will think, and tall people are worried about what
Short people.
small people will think. And, it's just live your life. Live your life. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
the 90s would say a chill pill. Maybe if they had a chill pill, everyone.
Well, my dad named me, and McNair was his father, Clarence McNair Wilson. And my first name is Craig, Craig, a Rocky Bluff or Cape. And Craig was a family that were friends of my grandparents, my dad's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Craig. He was a banker. And she, Minnie D. Craig, was the first woman in the United States to be not only elected to her state Congress, state legislature, in the 1930s. Imagine a woman being in electoral politics in the 30s, period. But she became Speaker of the House of the North Dakota electoral thing, and had polio, wore a brace. But the 30s, remember, it was JFK, or it was FDR. Yeah. So polio was kind of hip then. So that's what the C was. So, but I would ask my grandfather, what's McNair? He said, I don't know. It goes back 7 generations. It's been a first and a last name. So when I published my first cartoon at 10 years old, sent it in unsolicited to the Pasadena Star News, I assigned it McNair. So just in case any of my parents' friends saw it, people wouldn't be embarrassed. My parents were terribly proud. So I've, since that day, all my cartoons in The Door and Rolling Stone, all the different magazines, I always signed McNair. Well, in 1995, a bookstore owner, a friend of mine I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area, knew I was working on this book called Where You From? You get into a cab and there's a placard on the dashboard with the guy's name. And 9 times out of 10, they're from the third world. So you can't read it because it's either all vowels or all consonants. So I will just say, where are you from? There's a better than 50-50 chance that their answer, I can say hello in their language because I've been to 42 countries.
Wow.
And I can say hello in languages or countries I've never been to. So I was writing a book. It's done. And that's years ago. I need to finish it, for kids, called Where You From? And it's a workbook to interview your aunts and uncles and grandparents, yeah. Like I would say with my parents. Daddy, you're from North Dakota. Mother's from Iowa. How did you meet? Mother's Swedish, first generation. His sister was Daughters of the American Revolution. So that side of my family's been here since before the Revolutionary War and so on. But just questions. And then there's a map of the U.S. and a map of the world. So you can track where your family's from. So my bookstore owner knew about this and found a book of Celtic names. So all the MCs, MACs, O dash, like O'Malley and so on, and explaining what they meant. What is Malley in O'Malley? Found out that Nair in McNair is the servant, actually the butler, the head servant. And I thought, as a Christian, and Jesus said, I am the servant of man. I'm the, and in the theater where we bow at the end of a play as an act of humility, say, we do this for you. So in 1995, I switched on a day-to-day basis when I moved from Northern California to the San Francisco area. I switched to going by McNair. So if you call me McNair, you met me after 95. If you call me Craig, it's before 95. It's the way I carbon date my friends.
All right. So you are McNair forever. And I love that. And here's why.
And if somebody calls me Craig, I don't correct them. I don't wince. That's my name.
You're McNair. I like that. And that resonates with me. My name's Shaver, but I'm German name is Schaefer. Schaefer is shepherd. And Schaefer is Schaefer, and I like that. It was American, but it's like so that they call it etymology, right? The etymology of the words or the names those are really important and important to your identity and mine too. So yes. I love that. I love that you embrace that. That's really cool. Hey, I want to say something about you, McNair, if I can, to our listeners. You have a rich history, and I want to sing your praises for a second, if I might. and correct me or expand on anything I say that's wrong. You are a former Disney Imagineer, writer. You're a designer, speaker, creativity. I love this. Creativity coach. You have connections to EPCOT. Street theater. I love this. Streetmosphere. Streetmosphere. Did I say that right?
Yeah. When I created the Citizens of Hollywood characters for Disney-MGM Studios, and I presented to the bosses.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Weiss, who was in charge of that project, later became Imagineering. Bob said, "This is the best new idea I've seen in 10 years." Because I said, we design these amazing places, but they're dead. They're ghost towns.
Well, and that's where I want to go. I want to go in those. Last time you were on the podcast, what just rocked my freaking world was your insight into creativity. And that's where I'm sort of an artist type, and I see a lot of these sort of bland spaces, and it seems like your job is you go in there and you show people how to do art, how to be creative, and that's where last time you were on, it rocked my world, because
thanks.
You've done that so much in your long I don't know, history.
Funny when you say dead spaces, Craig. I mean,
I would say bland
Disney-MGM. I mean, I'm kind of curious where those spaces were or are.
Well, no, you walk down Main Street, any one of the 6 Magic Kingdoms that have a Main Street USA.
Yeah.
Now they have, in some parks, because of my Streetmosphere program at Disney-MGM Studios, now Disney Hollywood Studios, which is a terrible name. It's not even a name. It's like a subtitle. It's like titling a book the subtitle rather than.
I agree. They could have picked such a better name.
But in some of the Magic Kingdoms, I mean, they've always had the barbershop quartet, the Dapper Dance, but they have a mayor, a fire chief. They have the lady suffragettes. Those were things I designed. After I designed the characters, the Citizens of Hollywood, I came up with a cast of 30 characters for all of Disneyland. And somewhere at Imagineering, there's video of me doing an undertaker, talking to people in line at the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. Shovel over my shoulder, a cloth tailor's tape measure over my neck.
Yeah.
One of the Haunted Mansion green tuxedo cutaways, dead boutonniere.
Okay.
Everything's faded. Everything's a little too short, too small. Found a guy in line, went over to him, pulled out my, it's in the other room. My pocket watch, took his pulse, and I said, because he was smoking. And I said, oh, keep smoking. He said, we'll be seeing you very soon. And I turned to his wife and I said, what do you think, ma'am? A nice mahogany or a simple pine? She said, you got a cardboard box you can put him in? And they were filming all this. And later, the 2 guys from Imagineering, the video guys, they said, did you know any of those people? I said, no. Give people a chance to play along. It's called throwing an assumption. You go to a Renaissance festival, and one of the street characters comes up to you, and if you play along, it turns into something. That's what we did with the Hollywood Boulevard characters, and so I did that with this undertaker. We did a luggage handler in front of Star Tours. Where's everybody going today? And they had all this luggage and stuff. It was in a kind of a ill-fitting space outfit. Tatooine? Don't go to Tatooine. Tatooine's terrible this time of year. You go to Hoth. Hoth is the pleasure capital of outer space, especially in the autumn.
You're a good voice actor, by the way.
Thank you. Well, I've been in 40-some plays, directed 30-some plays, anyway. I think there are still a few of my voices here and there in different Disney parks. When you go to Roger Rabbit's Runaway, whatever it is, the Roger Rabbit ride in Toontown in Disneyland, while you're in line, there's some boxes you can open, and you hear different voices.
Hey, you should be able to hear that, but I haven't heard those voices in a long time.
Well, most of those were mine, including the one that I threw in that they loved. You open up and says, close the box.
I love that.
It's funny. I remember Tony Baxter had a thing called the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, and the key person who was heading that up was a guy by the name of Jeff Chandler. And I know Tony really wanted to have, yes, he wanted to have that thing take off. It sounded, the storyline behind it was amazing. And why Disney never really took off with that?
It exists in about 16 different locations around the globe.
I know most of them.
SEA.
Yeah.
In fact, here's the bag that I carry with me every day of the year.
Yeah. I got one of those.
And every once in a while in the theme parks, because I'll carry that with my sketchbook in it, whatever the current sketchbook is. And people will stop me in the parks and say, "Are you in the SCA?" I said, "Charter member." This actually was a logo that I drew one night on a phone pad in the hotel.
Oh, cool.
I took it in the next day and guys played with it. It was going to be the Adventurers Club logo, but they came up with a less interesting one. So I saw that somewhere and called me.
Kungaloosh and all that over at the Adventurers Club. And oh my gosh. I don't know why they got rid of the Adventurers Club. That was
Adventurers Club had the highest rating of any attraction that Disney ever built in the 90 percentile, which is impossible. That means that any survey where Adventurers Club could be the answer. Like, what's your favorite thing you did at Disney World this week? What's your favorite place you had a drink? Adventurers Club, 90% of the time.
Oh, I'd spend hours in that club and just forget about going on any attractions or rides or anything. It was that club. That was my main focus.
So, Michael, here's the Adventurers Club.
Yeah.
So Marty Sklar came to me one day.
Gotta find mine. I got mine sitting right there somewhere.
Whoa, two pieces of hats.
So Marty Sklar came to me one day and says, "We're building Pleasure Island next to the Walt Disney World Shopping Village." I said, "Marty, that's not even a name." Yeah. He said, "You know, the Contemporary Hotel and Polynesian Hotel were not names. They were just words that John Hench and I wrote on a big bubble map of Disney World saying there'll be a contemporary style hotel here and a Polynesian style hotel here." And he said, "We did a whole name for," and he never told me what the actual names were going to be.
Yeah.
That's why the Great Movie Ride at Disney
Hollywood Studios.
MGM Studios was the Great Movie Ride. It was Great Moments at the Movies was the name of the attraction.
That makes more sense.
Frank Wells said, "Why don't we just call it the Movie Ride?" So I made a list of every attraction in all theme parks, boiled down to their most generic. Pinocchio was Little Wooden Boy. Snow White was Pretty Girl and Her Seven Dirty Friends. Anyway, all these. But Pleasure Island, Marty said, "Come up with a name to rename the shopping village." 2 days, immediately something came to mind, but I didn't want to tell him. So I had in my office a roll of butcher paper that hung here, and I could pull it down, pin it, and then I would write. So I put that name right in the middle. Here's this big long thing, because I didn't want people to say that was my first idea. And then I put some other things on either side of it for what to call the Walt Disney World Shopping Village or Buena Vista Village, whatever. And people say, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, Marty asked me to come up with a different name for the shopping village." It was a great idea. I said, "So write a couple ideas." My office was in a high traffic area. I said, "And then check the ones you like." Well, everybody checked the one that I thought should be it. I finally got a meeting 4 days later with Marty. I couldn't get in with him. I told his secretary, Sally Judd, who I'm still in touch with, I said, "Beep me." I wore a beeper. This was before cell phones. "Beep me when Marty's headed for the bathroom." Now, he always ate a late lunch, and he'd walk down this main hall that he called the Hall of Ideas because he'd bump into people. And he could tell you at different places, and nothing was marked in the hall. Now it's a museum. They redecorated it with his toothbrush. And he'd bump into people and say, "This is where Tony and I came up with so-and-so. This is where Ed Sato and I came up with," and so on.
Yeah.
So I went and signed my name. And I said, I walked into the place and Marty was brushing his teeth. I went over and pretended to use the stand-up urinal. And then he said, "Hey, you were going to give me a name for the shopping village." So I pulled out of my pocket. They're in the other room. They're in my briefcase. One of those jumbo felt pens. And on the mirror in front of them in huge letters, I wrote "Downtown Disney."
Mhm.
Said, that's it, spitting toothpaste all over the mirror. Now, had that been today, I would have pulled out my iPhone and taken a picture and memorialized it. But in those days, we weren't allowed to have cameras with us, and phones didn't have. He said, "Don't you think that?" I said, "Yeah, it says what it is. It's Disney, but it's not a theme park, and so on." And we never
It was
discussed.
for me. I gotta tell you, I have to say this. When I was 21, I went to downtown Disney, and you say it's not a theme park, but I went to the Rainforest Cafe.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I didn't hate it. I was 21. I was like, oh, give me a something. It totally was a ride. It totally was an experience. I was like, I had a couple Jack Daniels in me. I went back to the parks, rode Splash Mountain. You cannot tell me that wasn't a theme park. That was the best ride of the day. It was
downtown Disney had that little attraction that was Star Wars themed, where you went into a virtual world, you put the helmet on, and you were in 3D world. Here we come. It was called the Void. Yeah. It was amazing.
And I'm not pushing back. I'm just telling you an anecdote because
we came up with 20 different clubs for Pleasure Island, and eventually did 7 of them. And Neon Armadillo, which became a country club, was originally a jazz club. And the only thing we changed about it was what was going inside. We didn't change the decor, didn't change the name, didn't change the logo. So the logo is kind of fancy and neon and so on. But we figured out that fit because Michael Eisner went downtown and saw, not Pioneer Square, what was the place that used to be downtown Orlando with the nightclubs and the big country western place. Wow. Anyway, so he said we need a country western something at Pleasure Island. So
I remember at Pleasure Island they had that discotheque where the floor spun. That was crazy.
Mannequins.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. The metaphor for mannequins is you're backstage at a Broadway show. So stage scenery kept coming down. And then the end of the evening, and Tony Milano, who's no longer with us, God rest him, designed it. Terrific designer. He programmed it so the end of the evening, the last 2 songs were Masquerade from Phantom of the Opera, which was kind of a big day. And all these young people who'd been boogalooing to the latest hits all night and pretended to do waltzes and stuff. And then that spun into Linda Ronstadt singing When You Wish Upon a Star. And that was how the evening ended. And then as that song ended, there was a fade to black. And just before it went to black, all the work lights came on. Music went off, and that was the end of the evening. Mannequins was great.
The whole place was great. And Mannequins, but mainly all my time was spent at Adventurers Club.
Oh yeah,
such an amazing club. With the what was it, the piano, or was it the organ coming through the ceiling, and and you go in one night and your maitre d' was now the butler, and then the next night the maitre d' was, or the butler was now one of your servers. Everyone had flip-flopping roles constantly. Nobody was the same person the next night that you'd go into that club. It was amazing.
Everybody said, the cast will get, because the tour that we cast my Citizens of Hollywood characters was the same tour where we found the cast for Adventures Club and people for Comedy Warehouse, the improv group, and then the ones who were the standbys and understudies. They ended up doing, and I don't remember what it was called. It's now the Starbucks on Hollywood Boulevard in Disney-MGM Studios. But it was a place where you could go in and make a movie, and the people that ran that, who were kind of 1920s movies people, I could think of it in a minute, were in there. Some of them were the husbands and or wives who, when you cast somebody who's married and you're going to relocate them from Minneapolis or California or wherever, you can't automatically pay for the husbands or wives. So we came up with these other fallback positions. So one of the guys that I cast was a friend of mine from San Diego, from Lamb's Players, who was a fine, experienced street theater actor. And he was kind of in my B list. And Jerry Jensick, who was head stage manager for Disney-MGM Studio, said, I interviewed your friend David Carmenito. He said he'd be a terrific stage manager for me at Disney-MGM Studios, especially for the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. But he says, for what it would cost me to relocate a guy from California, I can hire 3 stage managers out of Orlando. And I said, why don't I hire him for Streetmosphere, for Hollywood Boulevard? And 6 months from now, you transfer him into being a stage manager. And it was one of the great horse trades ever, because he had a great time doing, I made him one of the cops. And I had made these tickets for the Hollywood Boulevard police to give to people. And you'd see a family coming down the street, and you'd issue a ticket to the most lively person in the family for having too much fun, or senior citizens dressed alike, or all these different things.
Yeah.
And I was standing with him one day, and I said, Officer Carmenito, I said, see those 3 gentlemen there coming, perambulating their children? Looks like it's time for the first annual Hollywood Boulevard Grand Prix. And he says, do you mean? I said, I certainly do. And that's all we said. He lined them up at the break in the pavement at the start of Hollywood Boulevard. And he spent almost 5 minutes getting everybody ready. And by that time, he had 8 or 10 fathers with strollers. On your marks, I said, now, ladies and gentlemen, those who are, don't stand in the street, stand on the curb. Blew the whistle, and these fathers tore hell down the street. Children crying, everyone applauding. I mean, we had hundreds of people watching. And that's the thing about street theater, is you get a few people to do something interesting, and you get a lot of people watching.
Well, I think that's a good segue. And I would love, here's where if it's okay, McNair. And by the way, McNair, I have not done your voice. Usually I welcome all of our guests in a silly voice. And you have such a great voice for acting. I'm like, and I love Goofy. It's like, gosh, there's ups and land downs. I go, McNair. And
have you ever met Bill Farber, who does?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
He's my hero. And we've had him on the podcast a handful of times. He doesn't know this, but I love him so much. And he's
Presbyterian.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yes, he is. Yeah, he is. I know. I've seen him. The poor guy doesn't know this, but I stalk him. I study his voice passionately, intentionally. I know Bill Farmer probably better than Bill Farmer knows Bill Farmer, and it's just because it's like I just love his voice. My great cousin was Pat Buttram, who is
so it was my pleasure over the years.
Nottingham, and he is a lot like, and that was Bill Farmer's sort of voice that I call it your anchor voice, the one voice that you start, and for me it was, I used to, I think Bill Farmer used to go to like Burger King. I'll take a Whopper, land cheese, and a Coca-Cola to go, And then,
driving your car through the speaker ports.
He would do that. But then I did the same thing as a kid. Like, I did the same thing. But then it transformed into Goofy. It's like, but there's ups, land downs, gosh, ups, land downs. And then, but voices are amazing. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but I was going to say.
It's okay.
Hey, we're off on all different tangents.
I was going to say,
one of the little silly
Wilson. That was what I was gonna. I think that's where I was going. I wanted to welcome you in my Goofy voice, but also, I know where I was gonna go with this. I was gonna say, what I appreciate, I think, the most about you is your creativity, and not I think we have listeners that are, oh boy, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like we have listeners that go, you didn't ask them about their stories enough. We wanted to hear more information. But then we have other people that go, but we heard all this information, but what, it's the so what question, the creative, what does that mean for my life? And so you are here. Yes.
Right, there you go.
That's where I'm going.
Go for that plug.
Got it. I'm like, last time you were on, you were such a wealth. Thank you for letting me do my silly voices for you, by the way.
That's great.
But also, just last time you were on, you were just a wealth of information. If I, of creativity. And what did I say, Greg, earlier? Like the dry spots, or
Oh yeah, the dry
there's
spots
so
in the
many
park and stuff.
bland.
Yeah.
Everything's bland nowadays. You see movies bland. You see this bland. Everything's bland. Everything's safe.
Yeah.
Everything is
It's a sequel.
calculated. It's a sequel.
Well,
There's no new IPs. There's no nothing.
let me say,
Go ahead, Greg.
on that note, when Disney was promoting like Batu, the Star Wars land for Disneyland, and then also Walt Disney World, they were talking about, we're going to make this a really immersive, creative experience for the guests. They'll come in. We'll have characters from Rey to Chewbacca, everybody walking the grounds. You'll be able to interact with these characters. You'll make your own stories. They promoted the heck out of this thing, and it was a wonderful idea. And I would love to get into that cosplay side of the Disney, attractions and theme park. And then once the land opens, dead, nothing, dead space.
Yep.
These characters have all been forgotten or don't exist anymore, even though they do. And it's like,
they never did them.
Where did Disney drop the ball?
Never
Why
did
they
them.
drop the ball there when they promoted the heck out of it?
Well, I'm going to turn it. Okay, Greg and McNair, you all go at it. This is your space.
No, I agree. They did Rey.
Yeah, let's go.
They did Darth Vader. He's around some. They did whatever the guys in the white helmets and stuff are.
Stormtroopers. Yeah.
So there you go.
That's a good case study, right?
But there's no interaction. They just walk through the aisles and the hallways of the land, but they don't interact with anybody.
Yeah, and what I'm thinking of
cosplay that Disney really wanted to promote just fell flat. Nothing happened.
And I don't want to spin the conversation in the negative.
Yeah,
it's just a missed opportunity.
It's a missed opportunity. What if there's a magic wand, like boom, here's what I see. Not just like, this is what this person did wrong, or this is how they fumbled the ball.
I mean,
it's like, if I had the genie in the lamp, this is what, and I had a magical wish, this is how I would have cast.
I mean, when I went into Batu after it first opened, the first thing I did is I went to Save's workshop. I made myself my own lightsaber. I thought, man, there's going to be some interaction here with some Lucas characters. Never happened.
Well, this is where McNair.
Yeah.
All right, McNair. We're gonna unleash you. We're gonna unleash you. And what do you think? Because I think that's a great way to set up the conversation.
I don't know how to find it, but there's apparently a guy who's pretty savvy, non-cast member critic, and he's got something running online right now where he just eviscerates Josh D'Amaro, who's a good guy, by the way.
I agree.
But everybody
expected, he came up the ranks with Disney. I agree with that too. But
everybody expected that since he came out of resorts and attractions and all that, that he would make better changes than he's made.
Yeah.
I don't know of any major changes he's made other than continue. Hey, let's get rid of Tom Sawyer's Island. Nobody needs that.
What a travesty.
They're ruining the Magic Kingdom. Anyway, I very often on podcasts, people say, what would you do as CEO? I said, first of all, it would take less than a year, and I would reopen the Pleasure Islands Adventures Club by taking the Edison Club, which is a joke, and without changing much of the structure of that building, put the characters back in, reprogram it, and you could have the world headquarters of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers overnight almost. Put the Citizens of Hollywood Boulevard, which I'm told by guest relations at the studios, Disney Hollywood Studios, one of the most requested and complained about things there were the characters. And one of the things that happened with that program was they milked it down to a street theater program where 11 characters would come out and stand there.
Yeah.
Well, one of them told a joke, then another one, and they did this little show called The Funniest Person in Hollywood. The jokes weren't funny. They weren't even good dad jokes, which I would have settled for. But
I like a good dad joke, though.
If you've got 11 trained actors and 10 of them are doing nothing for a half hour, or one of them tells a joke, another one tells a joke. When we opened Disney-MGM Studios, Before the front gates were open, there were half a dozen characters on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
And if you stayed to the end of the day as you're leaving, there'd be half a dozen characters on Hollywood Boulevard. And throughout the day, there'd be half a dozen characters interacting with each other. Well, it all came because Michael Eisner, who was a big fan of our street theater in Italy and the United Kingdom that SAC Theater, S-A-K, my street theater company, created. And Michael said, what's the street theater going to be at the studios? And I'm sitting there one day looking at all the drawings on the wall of our concept room of all these real Hollywood storefronts that we were copying to make Hollywood Boulevard. But we also had this house that somebody designed and said, there's always the last house on Hollywood Boulevard. So it was this California craftsman bungalow with a neon sign that said Sid Cahuenga's one-of-a-kind shop.
Oh, yeah. My favorite collector shop.
Cahuenga Boulevard is a real street in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That building is still there. The neon sign is there, but it's like the headquarters for the tour guides. I mean, it's nothing. You go in, it's just, but it had real collectibles from the studios, props and costumes and old movie posters.
Sort of like Larry Edmonds in Hollywood.
Exactly like Larry Edmonds.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there looking at one day, and I knew Michael was going to come in and was going to ask me once again, what's the street theater at Disney-MGM? And of course, everybody said, well, just do a little movie crew on the back lot and the tram comes by. I said, that's not even a 30-second show.
Yeah.
It's got to be something else. And I looked and I saw Sid Cahuenga's, and I thought, if there's a Sid Cahuenga's one-of-a-kind shop, there is a Sid Cahuenga.
Yes.
And I went into my sketchbook and I drew a picture of my friend Al Erasum, who I met when he was in college at Bethel College, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay.
And he was the guy who, when they did a play that needed a father character, at 20, he could play the father in great plays. And I thought, put a Hawaiian shirt on him, a Borsalino hat, a plastic cigar, khaki pants rolled up at the
right
top. In. So when we were going through Minneapolis, and Disney had never gone and done auditions in Minneapolis, it had 9 colleges with theater departments. You would go there automatically if you heard that statistic.
Yeah.
But they'd never gone there. So we did. I think we ended up hiring almost 20 people between Adventurers Club, the Streetmosphere, and so on, so on, so on, out of Minneapolis. So I said, Al, I need you to come to work for me at Disney World next fall. This was like February or something. I said, we're coming through in December. So why would I work for Disney? You're so relentlessly patriotic and homosexual. I said, well, I would not ask you to do either one. I certainly understand. I said, do you have a Hawaiian shirt? Yeah, I got a couple of them. I said, do you have a Borsalino hat of some sort, straw or otherwise? I got a straw one. It's kind of worn out. And I said, perfect. And I said, a cigar, real or fake? I said, now when you come in, and we would bring in every city, we'd bring in 10 people at a time. They would do their little 90-second, whatever prepared piece they had.
Sure.
Then they'd leave, and we would write down on a list, Roger Koch, who directed Adventurers Club, Tom Sherman, who did Comedy Warehouse, and myself, we'd write down the numbers of the people we wanted to bring back in the afternoon for callbacks. The first 10 people in Minneapolis, we called back 9 of them.
Wow.
That's how good Minneapolis is.
Wow.
One of them was Mo Collins, who later went on to great stardom she was a regular on Parks and Recreation. Anyway, look her up, Mo Collins, M-O.
Whoa, I was just watching that show yesterday. Sorry.
She's the skinny, goofy one. Anyway, she's brilliant. But she did Streetmosphere for a while for me. Anyway, so I told Al, when you come in, whatever group you're in, don't acknowledge me that you know me. Just do your thing. So he comes in and he comes up standing in front of us and he says, hi, Al Erasum, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then Ronnie Rodriguez, who was there as the representative of creative entertainment, says, that's your guy, that's your guy. I said, who? And he's going through my stack of cartoons of my Streetmosphere characters. And it was a drawing of Al that I had done. So it looks just like him. I said, yeah, it's pretty close. Well, let's see. So I said, here, a piece of dialogue, Al, read it for us. And I had a half-page dialogue for all the Streetmosphere characters. And he reads it, and it's brilliant. And I said, well, that's very good, Al. I said, can you stay with us for the afternoon? He goes, yeah. I said, well, I think we might have you back. And so so he goes and sits down, and then as his group of 10 is leaving, just as he's going out of the door, turns to me and says, "Nice to see you, McNair." Ronnie hits me and says, he's a ringer. I said, doesn't matter. He's from Sid Cahuenga.
Yeah.
He was on the cover of USA Today.
Really?
Well, the guy that wrote the article was a guy named Craig Wilson,
Wow.
who I'd known for years because he'd write things about Disney, and my boss would say, "Is that you?" And I said, "No, but we've got to know each other." In fact, wrote an article one time called "Right Name, Different Guy" about how he and I had the shared name. And I invited him to the opening of Disney-MGM, and he said, "Oh, they won't let me come." I said, "Disney will pay all your expenses. You don't have to write a word. Just come
Wow,
look
what
at
an
it."
invite.
So he came, and he was knocked out by it. He loved it.
Oh,
He said, what's the hook here? I said, it's the world's first live theme park.
mm-hmm.
We have 6 major attractions. Every one of them has live elements that if you took them out, you'd have to close Superstar Television. You'd have to close Great Moments in the Movie. They all have, because people say there's only 2 rides, Backstage for that and Great Movie Ride. I said, no, that's why Mark Sklar insisted to Walt. They're called attractions. Is Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, is Hall of the Presidents, are those rides? They're attractions.
Yes.
They're all attractions. So Disney-MGM Studios had 6 major attractions.
I never refer to them as rides. They're
No.
attractions.
They're
And-
attractions, yeah.
Opening day, if you went on every attraction at Disney-MGM Studios, it would take you almost 4.5 to 6 hours. Well, in the Magic Kingdom, that'd be 20 attractions you'd have to go on because they're all so short.
Oh, the Aerosmith Rock and Roller Coaster. Oh my gosh. Just an amazing
So,
attraction.
so that's how we came up with Streetmosphere. I said, if there's a Sid Cahuenga, he knows the cop. He knows the gossip columnist. He knows the public works, the guys. He knows the guys that sells the maps to the Hollywood stars. When I showed that character to the creative entertainment group at Disney, they said, well, what is he going to sell? What is that character going to sell? So he's going to sell maps to the stars' home.
Mhm.
Are you going to do maps for Orlando? I said, we're not in Orlando. When you go through the front gate, you're in Hollywood, California.
Mhm.
Well, if you go out to Apopka in Florida and see a community theater production of Music Man, you're not in Apopka. You're in River City, Iowa for 2.5, 3 hours.
Mhm.
When you go through the gates of the Disney-MGM Studios, you're in Hollywood, California. The cast was programmed never to say the word theme park, never to say Disney World. You're in Hollywood. You folks from Hollywood, if you live somewhere else in LA.
Yeah, you're right next to Farmers Market.
It worked so well, and we built Farmers Market on Sunset
know.
Boulevard. It worked so well that the guy that was head of retail and the guy that's head of foods had me train all of the cast members on Hollywood Boulevard to speak the language.
Well, they
You
have
don't
the accents and the lingo and everything.
But don't say theme park. Don't say and use the crosswalks. Don't jaywalk.
Right.
The street. There's a cab there. It doesn't have an engine in it, but there's a cab there.
Mhm.
And it worked so well. And even the area bands, I said, guys, stand on the curb or stand under the awning at the gas station, stand someplace where a band in Hollywood would stand, but not in the middle of the damn street.
Mhm.
That's
I love
theme
those stop signs. It went stop, go.
And it literally changed.
30s and 40s.
The Time magazine article, it had Gertie the ice cream dinosaur on the cover.
Yeah.
That was on the cover. But the title of the article was "You're Under Arrest,"
Yeah.
because they heard my friend David Carmenito say to guests, "You're under arrest. I'm citing you for having too much fun." And one of the VPs at Disney World said, "Aren't you afraid that people are going to feel like we're making fun of them?" I said, "Look at the back of the ticket." And on the back of the ticket, it says, "In a world of copycats and people being the same, and I want my hair cut like this," picture out of a magazine, "you've chosen to go your own way, to strike off, to be an individual. Don't ever change. Keep up the good work." Because we'd hand them tickets and says, "Your fine is on the back." And the fine was, "Thank you for being you."
Yeah.
Mhm.
And people love those tickets. Are, they're dinosaur teeth to get those. And they didn't get it at first. So the Maps to the Stars Home. They said, "We can sell." I said, "We're going to sell. I've ordered 300 Maps to the Stars Home from the companies that make them. And we're going to have a kid with a lawn chair, webbed lawn chair,
Yeah.
and a sign that says Maps to Stars Home, Band-Aid on his glasses, the very first day he worked, which was not the first day we opened, I think it was 2 or 3 days in, Asif Manvi. Look him up on IMDb. He's a very busy actor.
Wow.
Asif is coming out. He's got a belt with change in it and a coin machine.
Is he the one with the big black rimmed glasses and the red hat?
I miss those coin machines. I
Yes,
miss
I know this
coins,
person.
actually. I don't even
So
make
I
coins
said to
anymore.
somebody, watch this. He just barely gotten out from backstage where it says cast members only. Guy says, what do you got there? The guest says, I get maps to the stars home. See where Miss Lucille Ball is. See the home of Cary Grant, the legendary,
Clark Gable.
He said, let me buy one. He said, I don't have a license for this spot. I gotta go around the corner. Before he got to his spot on Hollywood Boulevard, this guy handed him $3 and bought a map. Because the head of creative entertainment, I won't say his name because he was a friend, but he didn't understand make-believe. He put together bands. And I finally got him to get his bands not to stand in the street in Hollywood Boulevard. And I said, watch. Before we had ordered 300 maps, thought they'd last forever. They lasted 2 weeks because for $3, you could be a part of the show.
Yeah.
And you'd see people standing in the middle of Disney-MGM Studios opening this map to Hollywood. Well, do you know how to get to Lucille Ball's house from here? Do you know how to get to so on, so on, so on? A guy selling.
Thought those houses were there at the studio in the park.
No, they're playing along. They knew they weren't.
Okay, now I get it. Okay, yeah. How amazing that you got that kind of interaction from park guests coming in. They're coming here for a day to spend in Disney MGM or Hollywood Studios, and now they're a part of the show.
Why did we outlaw adults wearing character costumes in the parks? Because they want to be in the show.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now
Now we do it subtly. It's called Disney Bound. Where
cosplay is
sneak into it, but you can't cosplay.
Cosplay.
But you can
Cosplay is
Disney bound.
against the rules unless you're a little kid.
Yeah, that's a crying shame.
Now I understand not wanting to guess, thinking this, lift up broad Snow White is part of Disney. She's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But
Here, I'll show you Disney Bound. This is Disney Bound. This is the appropriate way. Check this out. This is Goofy. Like, nobody's gonna understand if I hold on. No, this is Goofy. This is my Goofy hat.
Yeah.
If I go there, I got an orange shirt on. I got the
right colors. Yeah.
This is appropriate.
well,
I'm
another
not gonna
Goofy.
sit here and dress up in a full-fledged.
Well, some do.
orange. Why, everybody? Yeah,
Some
like,
do.
I'm not doing
But
that.
even Bill Farber, who is Goofy, when he goes through Disneyland, nobody knows him unless Bill
nobody.
Farber fans.
Absolutely.
Or
100%.
Lucy Taylor, God
Yeah.
rest her
Yeah.
soul.
Or now it's Caitlin Robrock.
Yeah.
Like she's there. She's
Now,
does
you know
her
that-
thing.
You know that I just went blank on his name. The guy that did Mickey after Jimmy McDonald because he was
Wayne.
Wayne, yeah, Wayne Allwine.
Wayne.
He
is
and Rusey
Wayne.
met, fell in love, and got married.
They
So in
did.
real life,
They
Mickey
did.
and Minnie got married. Yeah.
And that's such an interesting story to me because Bill, what I know about Bill is Bill was real close to them too.
Oh, yeah.
And Jim Cummings, you had Jim, you have Bill, you have Rusey and then
Antonia and Selmo.
Antonia Solma, but he's
Donald
an
Duck.
enigma. That guy is so hard to get a hold of. Nobody interviews
Well, he's
Tony.
he's a pretty shy guy.
I know, which I respect, and I get that.
His birthday is the same as my mother, June 9th, Donald Duck's birthday. So when Donald was turning 50 or 60 or something like that, I called him. We got to know each other because when there's an opening, I'm doing
wow.
a load of media interviews and we get to know each
Yeah.
other. And I think Rusey and Wayne introduced me to him, so he knew I was okay. Not just
I think there's a lot of getting to know the voice. I love voice acting, and I love the community. There's always going to be, because Disney always had the Fab Five or Six, and it was like these were a close knit people.
Actually, it's the Fab Four.
But after Rusey and Wayne, and I love Brett Iwan. I love him as Mickey. I love, but Bill's still there, but it almost feels like half a cast, like
the only character I do fairly well is Pluto.
Oh.
No speaking role other than a lot of
I
panting.
know. Well, Bill does Pluto too, which is so I love.
But
I
you all
love
can
the
do a little bit of Pluto.
I know. I'm just.
So I called Bill Farber one day and I said, "You got a big birthday coming up." He goes, "Yeah, I know." I said, "My mom's birthday is also June 9th." He said, "That's amazing." And that's before they built the new animation building, and they were just some generic buildings across the street in the same neighborhood as Imagineering there on Flower and so on. And I said, "Would you have some time? I know not on the day, but maybe before then or after, to do a quick happy birthday to my mom?" He said, "Absolutely."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, I'll come over." He said, "No, let's do it at your office, because if I do it here, everybody will hear it and they'll all want one." I said,
Yeah.
so I knew he was coming. He called me, says, "I'm coming over." So I turned on my cassette, just turned it on. And I heard him coming down the hall. Ding, 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 ding. And I said, "Hi, Goofy." "Hey, how are you?" And I said, "Well,
that's my favorite thing to do." See, that makes me love Bill more. Bill, I don't know. I don't know if Bill's.
Well, I said, "Hey, it's your birthday. Happy birthday." "Thanks." I said, "You know who else's birthday is today?" He said, "Who?" And I said, "My mom." "Oh." I said, "Yeah." He said, "How old is she?" I said, I can't. He said, it's just us talking.
Didn't Pinto Colvig also do both Goofy and Pluto back in the day?
Bill does. Bill does Goofy and Pluto, and
Pinto was the original voice of
but
Goofy.
Pinto, I'm not. I like Pinto. Like there's other voices of Goofy that I'm not, like Hal Smith. "Hi there, everything's like this."
So we're recording,
everybody, and I don't like that. Bill was the first person. I'm going to go on a rant. I'm sorry, but I have to. Bill was the first person that pinched his voice. It wasn't "Hi there, hi there." It was "There's." He started going back to the Pat Buttram. It was, "Evil sheriff but you pinch your voice, and then if you pinch your voice and you drop it down, and there's ups or land downs, land ups, son." And Bill was the first person to really figure out Goofy's voice, because Disney did not know what to do with Goofy's voice until Bill.
No.
Bill made Goofy, because especially after Pinto, Goofy had a long history of Disney going, "What do we do with this character?"
No.
And then they found out, because Bill brought the
a lot more life into the character.
Yeah, in the fatherly, "Why, son?" And then Goofy movie where he spoke vulnerably and honestly in his, the hot tub scene where he's like, "I know," like the way that he just communicated was what, and we're like, "Oh, Goofy." That's why a Goofy movie right now is a huge hit. It was, and it's coming back because Bill. He didn't know. I know this about Bill. The Goofy movie, like, that was a hard process. They threatened to fire him.
Really?
Yes, they threatened to replace him with Jim Varney, the voice of or Ernest.
Yeah, from the old car commercials.
Yep, and
Ernest goes stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, they were gonna replace the voice of Goofy, and
no,
that
never.
poor man that had to go through all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
let me pretend to be one of your listeners for a minute and say, "Can we get back to Imagineering?"
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry. You get me on Goofy, and then I'm just like, but back to you, McNair. Gosh, I guess we have a guest.
Because I get the emails too. "Why don't you do more Imagineering stuff?" I said, "Because Pastor was in charge."
All right. Well, let's go, McNair. Let's do it. I agree. But you get me started on Goofy, I don't know when to quit.
That's okay.
All right, thanks for putting up with me.
We all have our passions, and clearly that one is Jeff.
Did we do Tower of Terror last time?
I don't remember. We can go wherever your heart wants. How about that?
No, I'm just saying, people say, I ran into some people last night. Some friends of mine have a themed speakeasy in the back of the restaurant, and right now it's Star Wars. Yeah. And I happen to have one of my Imagineering branded shirts on, and they said, "What did you do at Imagineering?" So I said, "Well, I headed up a team that thought it would be a good idea to strap people into a rusty elevator and push them off the 13th floor of a deserted hotel."
I mean, we'd talk about that.
So But
I'm gonna let Greg take over
I was
because
going to say, where did you find Mark Silverman?
I did not. But at Disney, there are people who know the voice talent world,
Yeah.
and he's known as
Rod
the
Serling.
guy that
Yeah.
does Rod Serling. Actually, we just did last spring. You may have seen Walt Disney World WDW Today did a 3-day event in Orlando, and they brought, I think, 20 some of us who were the key design staff for Disney-MGM Studios.
Wow.
And we did an in-studio chat. People could pay to be there live. And then it was also podcast.
Okay.
And he was one of the people they brought in. But all the key Imagineers, some who I had not seen since I left Imagineering, some I'd stayed in touch with. Bob Weiss I'd stayed in touch with, because I would, once a year, if I was in LA, Louis Lemoyne, one of the great graphic designers for Disney, he and I would go to lunch at Imagineering and see everybody, including Matt McKim.
Oh, yeah.
Sam McKim's son, Matt, who was my intern in the summer of 88, maybe, 87,
That's a
88.
good friend.
And now he's a full-time Imagineer. Well, say hi for me.
I will.
Yeah, Greg knows the McKims. He's
Sweet guy. And, my first office at Imagineering was Sam's old office. He retired a month before I got there.
Whoa.
And he had the office directly above the lobby of Disney, of Imagineering's 1401 building. And it's a corner office, so lots of light.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed when we were in there, I knew his name. He had all these mounted Disney maps stacked up. And I said, I have one of the original. Could I bring you? So my next trip, we were going out once a month for a year till I was invited to come on full time. And he told me all about. He's probably spent 2 hours walking me through that map.
Yeah. I got a map that Sam gave me. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Rolled.
Oh.
But I remember when when Sam finished this one map for Disney World, when he was done with it, it was just all filled with like pasted together pieces of paper and buff paper, and then they used that as the master to make this Walt Disney World map from. When Sam was done with it, he was just going to pitch it to the trash, and I asked him, could I have it? And he said, sure. So I've got that in my collection. It's just it's a map, but it's all put together.
No fair.
Maps.
Send me a snapshot. I'd love to see it.
I will.
So this has got Harper Golf and Claude Coates, and who else is on here?
Oh my gosh. Well, I learned something. I had lunch with Willie Ito about 3 weeks ago, and we were talking.
That's never been folded.
I know it has no.
I'll be right back, everyone.
Shows no signs of being folded. But Willie was telling me that he was also a designer of the Disneyland map, and he's the one who drew all the character faces around the borders of the map. And I didn't know that.
What's his name?
Willie Ito. He's famous for doing the kissing scene between Lady and the Tramp, where they have the spaghetti strung between their mouths, and Willie's famous for animating that. But when he told me, I used to work with Sam, and I did all the character faces around the borders of the Disneyland maps. I thought, wow, nobody has ever shared that anywhere that I've heard until I heard it from Coach's mouth.
I found a company that mounts old posters and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to send this to, because on the back there's tape, and they're going to take all that off and mount it on canvas.
I've got a better company if you'd like. I use them all the time. It's called Jaime Hernandez. They're down in Vista, California, near San Diego. I've taken Disneyland maps. I've taken attraction posters down to them, and they'll put a linen backing on the back for like $300. And oh my God, they do an amazing job at restoring.
Send me their info.
I will. Yeah, let's see.
You got my email?
I don't, but don't share it here because everyone's going to know it.
It's okay.
Okay. Let me find Jaime's right now. I can tell you that one right now. Let's see here.
Anyway, questions about Imagineering?
Yeah.
Mr. Shaver, you're up.
Where'd you go?
He's gone. He disappeared.
Here we go. It's the name of the company that I was going to forward to you. His name is Jaime Mendez, That's Jaime, and the last name is Mendez. And the name of the company is called JM Restoration and Conservation. And they are, like I said, down in Oceanside. And their phone number is 760-631-1512. And yeah,
630-1512.
63, no, it's 760 area code, then 631-1512.
Wait, did you just give your phone number to the world?
No, this is a service that I've used several times.
Okay.
To restore
you know we're live streaming.
I know. I told.
Let me read it. Let me read it to you one more time.
I just came in and people were giving each other numbers. I'm like,
Greg, 760-630-1512.
Well,
631-1512.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible, nor is Sharon the Magic responsible for any. I don't know.
Oh, I know Sharon the Magic.
but Jaime is really good. I mean, you go into a studio and he's got original movie posters, from like the Roaring '20s, kind of hanging, these huge posters that have got to be like 30 feet by 40 feet hanging in his workshop as he's restoring these things. He's an incredible artist himself.
When we were putting Sid Cahuenga's together,
yeah.
I don't know if you guys ever had any contact with Chris Carradine at Imagineering.
I'm familiar with that name, yes.
One of the great, he designed Pleasure Island. He's an architect. He's one of the Carradine brothers, son of John Carradine. Okay. He's the only one of Robert and so on, the other brothers who didn't become an actor.
Yeah, Revenge of the Nerds, here we come.
And Chris's wife, her dad was a famous movie producer, and so she knew everybody in Hollywood. So she went around and found friends of her parents who had all these old collectible things that was the stuff that we ended up using, A, as props in Adventures Club, and B, as stuff that we sold at Sid Cahuenga. I mean, one of the things that she found was at the studio when they were kind of traipsing around. Hold on, my computer came unplugged, and I don't want to lose you guys.
I mean, I've got posters from like Ichabod Crane and Mr. Toad that are, back to the 40s, 30s. They
found a stack
in paper, and he put a linen backing on it that just restored life to that poster. That it would have been lost.
They found a treasure trove of 600 brand new, never used or folded Disney one sheets from the movies, going back to Snow White in 1937.
Holy moly.
And they were on sale at Sid's when it first opened for, a couple $1,000 a piece. And I wanted to get a Pinocchio because my first job at Disneyland was I was the first ever walk around Geppetto, and I had 17 string, 26.
Whoa.
I remember that
Pinocchio
story.
puppet. And I did that. It was for the Christmas parade. The Christmas parade in those days was the Disney Classics Christmas parade. It was just all the great characters.
Yeah.
And they had started with Foulfellow and Gideon and Pinocchio. Then they added a gypsy wagon. And my friend Jim Campbell, professional puppeteer / Continental Airlines pilot, built two can puppets on either side of the gypsy wagon.
Okay.
And then the following year, they said we should have Pinocchio as a puppet with Geppetto. Well, they built this puppet. Then they built a costume for a yet to be identified and hired Geppetto, as only Disney could do.
Right.
Well, the trouble with finding that is the busiest time of the year for professional puppeteers is Christmas, because they do malls, they do openings, and so on and so on. So they're looking for someone who can handle a 17-string marionette. The average marionette has 7 strings. Doesn't need to do much. This thing did everything but poop smoothies.
Poop smoothies. That's funny. That's
probably would have done that if they'd have given Jim more time. So he put a little announcement in the newsletter of the Los Angeles Guild of Puppetry, which is the LA chapter of the Puppeteers of America. Anyway, and we had just moved to San Jose a year or so before that. And I said, well, I fit that size, and I think I could handle the puppet, because I was doing puppet shows, magic shows, professionally since I was 10. Disney flew me down for an evening. It was a Tuesday night. And in those days, Disneyland was closed Mondays and Tuesdays during the winter.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're on, they tried the costume on, and it was a rubber head, boom, and even the mustache and hair was just rubber molded. It wasn't the whatever it is now that looks
Oh, yeah.
horrible. And they said, it fits. Jim says you can do it. You got the part. And I said, could I see the puppet? Detailed.
Yeah.
So they showed me the puppet, and right away brought it to life. So at 16, did 2 shows a day. Well, they didn't know what to pay me. They'd never hired a professional puppeteer. Jim negotiated my contract. He said, he's a professional like you musicians. You should pay him what you pay musicians. So I was paid 8 hours a day, musician scale, to do 2 20-minute parades
Wow.
for the run of Christmas Vacation for 3 years. It was, and I had a gold pass, so I could go in the Magic Kingdom even on blocked days when the park, you as a cast member, you couldn't go. It was too busy. And my brother, about 2 years ago, said, do you have any pictures of you as Geppetto? I said, I don't. He said, I found some.
Whoa.
So I have a few black and white snapshots. I'll see if I can find one real quick here.
That's something Greg is and McNair, I don't know if you know this about Greg. Greg is a collector. He has collections. We talk about sharing the magic and sharing stories. Greg is the perfect snapshot example of the vault. I call it the Walt Vault. Sometimes I just call it the vault. It's we collect stories and we collect anything, but Greg is like a living example of this because he has actual memorabilia and stuff, and so I'm just a fly on the wall in this podcast because you guys,
you got a big collection. You're right.
And you do, and every week, McNair, every week we spend time together and we go through his collection, and the stuff that you've because you care, and that's what at the heart of it is. This, you really care about these things, and
well, they bring back so many fond memories for so many reasons. And when I look at any part of my collections, I mean, I can remember when I got it, who I got it from, a story behind it. I mean, case in point, I'm looking right now at my art of animation that I got from Dave Smith. Oops, where did Craig go?
He'll hopefully pop back on. Continue though.
But it's like my art of animation book. I mean, that was Dave Smith's, and when Dave Smith was having to liquidate his collection thanks to his role at Disney, because he's now he's the archivist. Disney is like, they're literally telling him he has to get rid of everything that has to do with his job, being the archivist. So Dave, I was probably 15 years old at the time, and he said, these are the things I'm selling, and if you're interested, I'll just put them aside when you can afford them, and then they're yours.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, I mean, yeah, it's just so many memories and so many things that are here in my office that when I look at it, I know exactly when I got it. Yeah. And it's sort of like the Ratatouille experience. I get that, that look, and then I feel that flashback coming over me, and so many memories.
Well, that's why tonight I'm like, I loved being a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
You know how comforting it is for me as a podcaster as I go, oh, here he's coming back. But I go, yeah, Greg's got it. And I love it. I love this is my dream. I don't want to have to carry stuff. I love just watching things happen naturally. And I just want to be a party captain, and just to see you guys geek out over all this amazing stuff. Hey.
Oh, what happened? Your computer go dead, or you're on?
Yeah, my computer died. It's plugged in and the light is on. I don't know what happened.
Oh, that's all right. Now we got.
So I'm on my iPhone.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's do this. We've gone for a while, and I have loved. I was just telling Greg that I've just loved watching McNair, you and Greg talk, and to You both have. This is a dream as a podcaster. I'm like, I just, you guys have a connection, and Greg has the nostalgia, the.
Okay,
Wait, I know.
Okay,
Now,
here we
okay,
go.
I'm gonna take the bait. Here we go. I love it.
Here we go. Here we
Uh-huh.
Now, did you
Here
see
we-
the hat I had on earlier?
Yeah, can you see my hat?
Yeah. Do you know the significance of this hat?
Yeah, I know 52. That is the beginning of WED. Yeah.
So we did a group at Imagineering called Club 52, by Club
Really?
33. And it was everybody who worked at Imagineering who was born in 1952.
I missed that by 2 years. I'm 54.
Oh darn.
I know,
Nope.
shucks.
Oh shucks.
Nobody's perfect.
Right?
And you would be on that list.
Yes. I'm looking at all these different Imagineering hats that I've got sitting over here. I didn't work for Imagineering as an employee like you did, Craig. For me, I was a subcontractor. I worked for a lot of different landscape architecture firms where we had contracts with Walt Disney Imagineering, and I got to work on some amazing projects through that connection. But I always wanted to be Imagineer. But through all the friends that I made through those companies, I got to know Tony Baxter. I got to meet Sam and Kim. I met so many people through that kind of association that I feel like I'm an honorary. I feel like I'm an honorary Imagineer. In fact, here's my name tag that I kept. I didn't give back to security, but it's my honorary Imagineer badge.
I have 2 or 3 of those from my.
I get a bunch of these. When I went through the front door and they're saying, "Well, where's your badge?" Oh, I got to go back and get it. And they're like, "Oh, okay." And then I just walk out the door.
From my days in the documentary film world, pre-Imagineering. I've got 2 or 3 of those from film crews that I was on at the White House.
It's funny. I before Dave Smith passed away, he was a very close friend of mine. And I met Dave when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
Through another friend, and Dave got me, my buddy and I, into Disney Studios after he was appointed as the Disney archivist. This is going back to like 1968, 69.
Yeah.
And through my connection with Dave got me into the studio so I can do my college senior project on Mineral King. He gave me a 1-year pass where I could come and go like the gold key to the city, come and go from archives and do what I want. I'd go down 3 times a week, and I would go, right through the gate, show the pass, and then I'd go over to archives, spend an afternoon there doing my research, and then I'd go over to the commissary, have lunch. I'd bring my lunch and I'd go out to the back lot and sit at the Zorro set, or I'd sit over at the Shaggy Dog's house, or wherever on the back lot. And it was just a time back in 1981, 82 that I'll never forget. It was just so special. And yeah, my connection with Dave Smith got me into the studio so many times that I felt like I worked there.
Good, sweet man.
He was a
Hey,
very nice
McNair,
guy.
I have a question, and this is sort of how I want to. I think, and Greg, thank you for that.
Sure.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that. But we got listeners, and you're creative, and this is a whole new world that we live in. And here's the question: if I was a listener right now, and I was a young listener, I'm in my 40s. But if I was a young listener, a creative type, and if I were right here, right now, living in this world, what the hell do I do? And your gift is infusing creativity. You've done this. I know your history. You've done this all over the map, not just for Disney. You do this all over the place. You specialize in creativity. You specialize in thinking outside the box. You specialize in helping others figure out their way creatively in a really tough terrain. And this is tough terrain in this world. And so if I was not in my 40s, but let's say I was in my 20s, maybe I'm an artist type. I'm creative. I'm like you. What would you say to me? What would you say to that person right now in this world, in your experience? And sorry if that's, I think it's okay.
So here's what I do. And this happens more frequently than you might imagine.
Yeah.
I'd say, what would you like to do? When I speak at writers' conference, people say, I want to write a book. I said, so write a book.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where to start. I said, just start.
Yeah.
The hardest thing about starting is starting. Just start.
Yeah.
You will see. You said you just bought my book, Raised in Captivity.
Yes, I did.
That book was done, and I had the galleys, the finished layout in my hand.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the one I bought.
And my my editor, we both lived in the Bay Area, called and said, did you get the galleys? I said, yeah. He said, okay, you've got 10 days. Make any changes you want to. Don't make major changes because it'll ruin the layout.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to my favorite breakfast place, Rock Ridge Cafe in Oakland, read the first half of the book, took some time off, went to another favorite place in the afternoon. When I read it, liked it a lot. And I sat down and I wrote a paragraph. And I met Roy, was his name, my editor, for dinner, for sushi. And I read him a paragraph, which I'll read you here in a minute. He said, what is that? I said, well, I read this book about a guy who grew up in an avidly church-going family. And it's really good and eventually pretty entertaining, but it starts out a little not on the money. I said, this is the way I would start it. He said, that's great. It became the opening paragraph of this book.
Mm-hmm.
It's often used to introduce me at conventions.
Mm.
Or if I'm going to be at your convention next year, they'll read it to say, this is who's coming next year.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's a convention of church-going folks or faith people or so on, however your group terminates, calls those people.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read it to you. And it's my favorite thing I've ever written. And it's the last thing I wrote for this book. The book was done.
Mm-hmm.
It's chapter 1, Organ Prelude, Why I Wrote This Book. And then a line from Macbeth, in the great hand of God I stand. And here it is. Make no mistake about it, my family was a Bible reading, hymns out of the hymnal singing, missionary supporting, Christian school attending, choir joining, scripture verse memorizing, summer camp going, tithe giving, big giant Christmas pageant performing, Wednesday night prayer meeting praying, church league basketball playing, Holy Spirit or ghost believing, God-fearing, gospel magic and ventriloquism doing, 27th generation going out after Sunday night service for pie eating, Jesus-loving, church-going family. And we didn't play cards, and we didn't go to movies on Sundays neither. My family has been going to church for so long that our family tree is a flannel graph story, and the family Bible is in German. Old Testament German.
Guggenheim.
So I say to people, just start writing. This book was done when I wrote that, and it became the opening paragraph of the book. And it really sets up the reader and the book for what's about to follow. So you just have to, I don't know,
Yeah.
and I say this at writers' conferences.
No, that's. I think that really if I could pause for a second, I think that statement is exactly the thing that people need to hear.
Just start writing. I don't know if Charles Dickens, when he wanted to write about the clash of political and sociological times between Paris and London and wanted to write about that, I don't know if he took his quill pen and sat down and wrote, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, but that's how.
But he wrote something. He wrote something, and what you said, I think nowadays they call it canoeing the mountains. Canoeing the mountains. It's like we're in uncharted territory.
Yeah.
And what you said, I think, and if there's young people listening, please note this. I think from just note it that do something. We don't know, but you got to do something.
In the new book, which is a sequel to Hatch, a trombone played badly, there's 26 chapters.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for that, which you'll see when you read the book. But I went back 2 times and redid the entire book, and I'm about to do that for a 3rd time before publishing, because I still think there's a twist that I need to make to the overall structure and feel of the book. But you've got to write it. You just got to write it. Sometimes I'll get to one of those 26 chapters and I'll read it. I won't change a thing. In fact, more than half of them, I won't change a thing. Some of them, they're too long, not funny enough, or don't make the point I'm trying to make. But just start writing. And on any project, just start drawing, just start rehearsing, just start composing, just start. Guy Kawasaki, one of the head guys that created the Apple Macintosh computer, said the hardest thing about starting is starting. Just start.
Yeah.
And don't try to figure it out. Don't try to figure out the title. You know, the title of Raised in Captivity was not the title, as I told you in the earlier in the podcast. It was Adult Child of Evangelicals. And my editor said, what if someone's not an evangelical? Why would they read your book? I said, well, if the only people who read this book are evangelicals, that's a few 100,000 readers. I'd be happy with that.
It's
Hatch was not called Hatch. It was called Donuts on the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest publishers in New York, of the 16 who rejected it, said, I don't like the title. I don't get it. And I said, how about you read the book? It's in there. It's chapter 4. Yeah. I said, well, I could write in the preface a little sneak preview of where Donuts on the Moon comes from. In the new book, the opening chapter, the subtitle is Where the Title Comes From. So I right away tell you, why is it called Donuts on the Moon? But I wrote a memo to this lady. Actually, I wrote it to the guy who was the head of the religious division at her big publishing company, Broadway Books, one of the biggest publishers in the world. And I said 2 things about a book cover. One, it's a poster. You should get an impression right away. And what you want the book cover to do is have people pick it up and say, what's this about? I created a dummy of this cover. And I wanted to make sure that if Barnes & Noble or somebody ordered only 1 copy, there would be a reason to pick it up that would get people's attention. So I made a dummy, put it on a shelf at Barnes & Noble, turned around, walked 10 pages, turned around to take a picture, and there was a guy standing there holding it.
And that book has been on the bestseller list.
It's been on
10 for a long time, hasn't it?
It's been on 3 of Amazon's bestseller lists for almost 10 years.
Amazon, yeah.
And
for good reason.
Yeah, and it's not available. There's only a few bookstores that have it, and it's because they're bookstores that I frequent. And they said, could we have some of your books?
Well, people are hungry for what you have to say. You know,
so,
people are, I think people are hungry. I'm hungry. I know young people are hungry. We live in this crazy world where nothing is the same and everything feels like the wilderness. And stories and insight, what you have to share is exactly what people want. It's because I said earlier, these flat spaces, these bland spaces, everything is an algorithm, everything. And then you come in with books and insight that is not about algorithms or how to no, you come in with creativity and like elbow your way in and be like, this is how we need to think. And that's why movies suck nowadays. That's why everything is bland. That's why everything's tanking. Art is not in a place, it's a decadent place. It is not a place of, this is the world that we live in, despite our technology, is not a place of art. It is a place of decadence. And having creative types that have done what you've done to come in to speak and to write books and to tell stories is exactly what young people need. It's what old people, I say old people, I mean middle-aged people need, you know, midlife crisis people need, like this guy, That's what we need. And you're doing a great job. And that's why
Well,
last
thank
time
you.
you were on this podcast, it was amazing. It was amazing because I look back at like what I wrote you after the podcast last time, and I'm like, McNair, it was so good. And I was like, oh, I was just gushing. I was gushing. But it was honestly a great conversation, and this was too. And
Thank you. They in Hatch, there's a quote. My books are full of great quotes. Opposite the title
yes,
page,
they are. Mm-hmm.
it says, most of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Edison.
That's it.
It's funny, when I was in college, I wanted to be a landscape architect, and I got a degree in landscape architecture. For me, I struggled at art. I'm the type of person who draws with a straight edge. I'm not creative to where I can sketch with, flowing and beautiful artwork that way, which many of my colleagues can do. But I had a college professor, his name was Dr. Henry Cordes. Henry Cordes pulled me aside and said, I see so much creativity in you. It doesn't matter if you can't sketch these beautiful works of art. You have your own forte, your own niche as to what you can do. And he pointed me in the direction of a book that I still have in my collection. It's called The Emerging Goddess. And in this book, it talks about 3 different fields of design. One is they follow a ballerina, another one they follow an architect, another one they follow, I forget who the third person was, but they follow all different aspects of design, and they give you a relatable story to understand how design works. It doesn't have to be flowing pictures and beautiful Disney artwork and stuff. It can be straight edges and such, or it can be a computer programming. I was a computer programmer for 30 years. That's where my expertise is in. And Dr. Cordes says that's where you need to really focus. Don't get so caught up in what other people think. This is what art is. Art is what you make of it.
So,
yeah,
that's great. The title of the new book, A Trombone Played Badly, comes from teaching. I was teaching the 7 agreements of brainstorming, which is Hatch.
Mm-hmm.
And every other week, 1-hour class through Disney University at Imagineering. And we started with all the newbies, the youngest one, then moved up. I mean, anybody could come to the class, but it was required for newer people. One day, Michael Eisner walks in. He says, is this where the How to Think Like Walt Disney class is? Because that's what we called it. How to Think Like Walt Disney, the 7 agreements of brainstorming. I said, sure. And he said, do you mind if I sit in? I said, do you have to stay for the whole class? He goes, how long is that? I said, just an hour. End of the class, he said, do you think you could teach this to some of our executives at the studios? And I went, he said, what, you don't think they're smart enough? I said, no, the opposite. One of the rules of thumb of education is the hardest thing to teach someone is that which they think they already know.
Yeah.
I said, what am I going to teach to Mr. Roth, who runs Walt Disney Studios? He's chairman, not president, chairman of Walt Disney Studios. What am I teaching him? Oh, he says, well, he's got a lot to learn. I said, oh, I'm sure he does. But does he know that? He says, I think he would, but not all of our others. So this is pre-email. So he wrote a memo to the head of all 23. They didn't call them divisions. The business card said part of the magic of the Walt Disney Company at the bottom of the business card. And he said, I want you and your top people to take this class. We're going to offer it once a month at the studio. Well, they ended up offering it every other week. That first session, Mr. Roth, Bo Boyd, who was in charge of consumer products, who was the only VP, imagine that Eisner and Frank Wells didn't fire when they came into Disney because he was that good. And I forget who the third guy was, but I saw them standing after the class. They came over and said, you're great. We want you to teach all of our people. We were just discussing, because, the 3 of us were not creative. And I poked Roth in the chest. I said, okay, first of all, you don't get to be, what are you, chairman of Walt Disney Studios? You don't get that job if you're not creative. He said, well, I can't even draw a straight line. I said, nobody can.
Yeah.
That's why if you go around the corner here over on Cahuenga to World Supply, the biggest art supply store in LA, one of the main things they sell is rulers and T-squares and triangles. You know who buys those? Artists. You know why? Because they can't draw a straight line. Drawing a straight line is a test for nothing. I went to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design on a full scholarship. Room, board, tuition, books, everything. They never once called before I got there and said, "Now we'll make sure you can draw a straight line, can't you?"
Yeah.
Because in the basement was a co-op art supply store where they sold basic artist supplies at 10% over cost.
Yeah.
So if you needed a charcoal pencil, if you needed a new sketchbook, if you needed whatever it was, they had it there, including rulers and T-squares and triangles.
Yes.
The other guy said, "Well, I can't draw stick figures." I said, "Drawing a stick figure is a test for nothing. Tell me somebody who's hiring stick figure drawers. Where's the last time you saw a stick?" And I spoke to him, I said, "But you can draw stick figures." He said, "You don't know me." I said, "When you were a kid, you rode on a bus and I said, "Where'd you grow up?" And he said, "Montebello." I said, "So you rode on a bus, you went to downtown LA and took a tour of the LA Times and you saw their big printing presses." He goes, "Yeah, how'd you know?" I said, "Every kid in LA took that for a field trip. And you rode on a bus and going or coming or both, you sat in the back and you played hangman." And I waited. And he goes, "And you have to draw stick figures, don't you?" I said, "Exactly. And since then, you've never had to draw them because nobody's hiring stick figure drawers.
Yeah.
So shut up about this. I can't."
No.
So I thought, how do I take guys like that and help them understand their natural creativity?
That's right.
Out of that came my TED Talk, Recapturing Your Creative Spirit, and the 4 most common habits of creative people. And that's the subject of, give me 1 minute. The 4 key habits of actively creative people. And I don't say creative and non-creative, actively creative. People who sit down and as they're doing something, they know this is an act of creativity. They take risks. They challenge assumptions, meaning the way they've always done. Every Starbucks barista I've ever asked said, "Do you do everything exactly as you're trained?" And they all say, "Of course not."
Yeah.
Challenge your assumptions. Be endlessly curious. Keep asking questions. The curiosity is the spark plug of the imagination, and see things differently. How have we always done it? Find another way to try it.
Yeah.
You get stuck on a project, look at it differently. Go around behind it, under it, so on. And as I was writing it, I came up with a 5th habit of actively creative people, and you'll have to read the book to find it.
Oh, darn it. I want to know.
That's something that everybody does, and it's something that I learned from my buddy Claude Coates, who I saw on TV when I was a kid, and I met him the first day I was an Imagineer. And he designed, of course, Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean and a couple of things.
Maybe you can tell me after the podcast. I promise I'll still buy the book.
Nope.
Oh, darn it. I tried. Okay, here's the thing. That's perfect. That's exactly where I was hoping you would go. And so that TED Talk, for people that listen to this podcast, we have to make sure they know where to find. If you go on YouTube, can we just type?
Yeah, it's a TEDx conference in Denver with educators. Okay. I don't know the exact. I mean, I could probably find it, but and my computer
Wilson,
just died. So
if you probably type in C McNair Wilson, that will be the TED
yes.
Talk. You will
McNair Wilson TEDx.
TEDx. Okay, perfect. But then you have books, and we need to make sure that our listeners know where your books are, because I just bought one, and it's
they're on Amazon.
Okay. So type in the same name,
C. McNair Wilson,
or
Hatch.
But what about Hatch? So I don't actually own. Sorry, I hope that's not offensive. I don't own that book, and I'm going to buy it. It's going to happen.
I will.
I'm so fascinated because
email me your address and I'll send you a copy.
Okay. Yes, I will. I just talking to you, not once, but twice, I'm like, that's the book. That's the creativity that we've just talked about. And in a world that's shifting and changing, how do you keep the same principles alive that can transcend the wilderness, right? So like, this is new terrain. Well, what are those principles? What are those things that doesn't matter if times have changed? What are those enduring?
Go to your favorite restaurant and don't order something you've always ordered. Order something you've never ordered. Go to your restaurant you've always wanted to go to but never gone to.
Yeah.
Go to an art supply store and buy a kind of pen, felt
Yeah.
pen. If you don't own a fountain pen,
Do it.
It's funny, growing up, I was a meat and potatoes type of guy. I met my wife. One of the things when we went to Europe, she says, I know you're a meat and potatoes person, Greg. When you go to Europe with me, she says, I want you to experience all the cuisines of Europe. And you may not have to order those meals ever again, but at least try them once.
Well, and this is it. This is what McNair
I did it.
nailed. The future is for the curious. The future is for the curious.
stop typing and start writing with
Mm-hmm.
a fountain pen.
Okay. Why?
Okay.
Why?
You have a different experience with words. This is called the Varsity Pen by Tombow, Tombo. They sell them at Staples in a bunch of different colors. They're cheap, they're disposable. In other words, you don't refill them. And then someday you might grow up to be like me and have a friend give you the Porsche
Whoa,
pen.
I know
But
that.
I won't even tell you how much this costs because it's embarrassing, but I didn't pay for it. He gave it to me.
Is that a Mount Blanc or
No, Porsche.
Porsche? Okay.
Porsche design.
Wow.
And this is the steel wrappings that are on the brakes of a Porsche. But start. I think these are $2, $3, $4 at the most. But get a fountain pen and spend a day doing only fountain pen writing, whatever it is.
You're awesome.
It almost forces you to write cursive, which is a
And here's why.
method.
This is why this is such good advice. I know so young people. I'm in the middle of the road. Okay, I'm not young. I'm not old. I'm a middle-aged freaking man. That's what I am. But I know younger people, and younger people want Strathmore Bristleboard. They want pens and inks and colors.
This my desktop.
There you go. That's
It's funny. I posted pictures of stories that I've got from Imagineers that like to write in cursive, and I put them out on Facebook, these Disney Facebook groups, and it's like people can't read these letters because they don't know how to read cursive, and I had to go out there and translate it for them.
Changing times. This letter opener is a steel knife. Okay.
Yeah.
I bought that at the gun shop and knife shop at Knott's Berry Farm when I was 12.
Yeah.
I didn't have to have my dad come in and sign for me. They would no more sell this to a 12-year-old today than, they'd rather take me over to the chicken restaurant and buy me a free dinner. You couldn't do that today.
I want to go back to the 80s so bad.
But I've been around. When I meet
even
new
older.
people online, they say, how old are you? I say 892 months. And then the right guy say, why did you tell me? Can't you just tell me your age? I said, can't you just do math?
He asks kids to read a clock, and they can't read it if it's in
All right.
if it's an analog.
Let's
It
not
just blows my mind.
Let's not crap on kids, but I'll tell you this. The world is just so different. I feel bad for kids. I'm like, poor kids.
I do. I agree.
These are people in their 30s and 40s who get mad at me for saying it. My doctor, when I first met her 3 years ago, they had an 8-page document. They'd done my physical, and then she comes in and we're meeting for the first time, and she goes, "You are in great shape." And I patted my stomach. I said, "Well, I'm in terrible shape." My brother said, "Why don't you get in shape?" I said, "I did. I chose watermelon as my shape." Only because I can't spell dirigible. And
There you go.
and she said, "No, you're in great condition. Your heart." And she's going through all the stats of me physically. And she says, your mental acuity test was very high.
Yeah.
So on and so on. She said, whatever you're doing, keep it up.
Yeah.
And then she said, especially for your age. I said, do you know my age? Now, the only way in this 8-page document to know my age was on the front cover, in the front upper right-hand corner, was a 6-digit number for a month, day, and year. And I don't know if she had checked that yet or not. She's on page 6 or 8 of this document. I said, tell me how old I am. And she guessed a number 15 years younger than my actual age.
Well, because you're a smarty. You're smart. Like,
Well,
I
there's
knew
that
this.
too.
Well,
But she
I
was
knew this
talking just
last
about
time.
physical condition, heart, and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
but also
Well, the
your
point
mental
is,
acuity. Your mental, like, last time you were on, it was awesome. I'm like, I gushed. I was like, oh, I gotta text McNair again, and I did, and it was because I was like, your insight into it was just so refreshing. For one, refreshing, but two, like, dude, you're smart. You know, you got the brains. So
I'm blessed.
yes, you are.
But
And
God,
that's why I love
God,
having you on.
loaned me remember that line in the original Batman where Jack Nicholson as the Joker says, "Why does he have all the toys?"
Yeah, you got all the
Right,
toys.
yes, I know that.
Yeah. All right, we got to go. This has been an amazing podcast.
Okay, and let's not wait
How
12
do you
years
want to go out, McNair?
to do it
You go
again.
out the way that you want to go out. If there's
I want to die.
story,
I want to die shot by a jealous husband in my 90s.
No, I mean, I don't mean like that, but I mean like how in this podcast.
Well, I tell people, if you're on Facebook, go to see McNair Wilson on Facebook.
Okay.
Befriend me. Say you heard me on the Smitty and Ernie show, and we'll become friends. And that way, you'll be among the people in the next month or so that are going to get the first announcement to buy the pre-publishing super duper discount price of the new book.
Yes.
And if you buy it before it comes out, you're going to help because it's self-published. So you're going to help me pay for the publishing.
Oh yeah, we'll help.
And what we're going to do, because as it says on the back of Hatch, buy 2 copies, you'll loan it to somebody and never get it back. A pastor friend of mine bought a copy of Hatch. And he said, send it to me at home. So I did. He came home one day and it was sitting there with a stack of mail, and it was in a bubble wrap thing with a cartoon on the outside, as I do often with friends. And he opened it, oh, it's great. And he set it down on the bubble wrap. I'm going to read this later. Comes home and it's gone.
Okay.
2 of his 4 kids are off at college, 2 are at home. So he and his wife and his 2 home kids. So he said, anybody see? And he held up the bubble wrap. Anybody see the book that came in this? Crickets. The next day he comes home to have lunch, scheduled lunch with his wife. And she's sitting there reading Hatch. And he said, that's the book. Oh, she said, I wasn't sure what you're talking about. He said, I told you the name of it. So he called me. He said, send me a copy to the church, but don't put anything fancy on it. So I sent it in a bubble wrap, but I just typed out a little label. So it looked real boring. And the return address was CMW. And at that time I had a P.O. box. It arrived and somebody stole it off his desk. So it goes to staff meeting, 57 people in his staff, not a small church.
Uh-huh.
And he held up and said, somebody stole my friend's book off my desk. If it's back on my desk by the end of day, no questions asked. But if I don't get it back and I have to find out who did it, I've already made arrangements. Your reservation is secured. You're going to hell. Senior pastor. He never got it back. So he had to send it to me. You can imagine with 4 kids how many cars they had.
And that's why everyone's in hell.
Yeah. He had to send it to his mechanic.
Yeah.
With a note inside that said, when you get this, give it to Pastor Dave. And
I love that.
And so it took 3 tries for him to get a book. So what we're doing with the new book, the pre-sale, you have to buy 2. But it won't be double the price.
I mean, I don't want anyone else to go to hell. So that would be that's a good
I don't care. I don't care who goes to hell. Groucho Marx will be there. It'll be fun.
Right. It's sort of like, yeah, give it to a friend and let's spare the souls, because your book is that good where people are like, is it between damnation and your book? It's like, yeah, I'll count the cost. It's fine.
And the other thing about
shows you how good your book is.
The other thing about the new book, you buy 2, and if you want to, instead of us sending you 2 copies of the new book, you'll get a copy, your choice, a copy of Hatch and a copy of the new book, because the new book is a sequel to Hatch. Okay. And I've already started on the 3rd sequel in this series. It's going to be at least a 4-book trilogy.
Wow.
Well, I
There's
can't
no-
wait. And I'll say it this way. I can't wait because I know you. You've been on the podcast now twice. You know, we're friends on Facebook. I see your posts, and you are a truly creative person. And you are somebody that I look up to, honestly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So everybody, not to poo-poo that, but I absolutely appreciate that.
Mhm.
Everybody has a creative spirit. That's why I did Recapturing Your Creative Spirit.
Yep.
That's the new book. And when I talked to those 3 division heads at Disney, I said, how do I help those 3 guys and so many people like them
Mhm.
that don't think they're creative? Because they take the word creative and turn it into artistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Being artistic may or may not include creativity.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Well, and
the new book,
that's why I look up to you. It's
Well-
because it's not just your creativity; it's what you're doing with your creativity. It's you are taking your creativity and you're sending it out to the world. You are with your books, with your talks, with your insights, even just being on this podcast. You're not just you are infusing creativity into the next generation. The people that are hungry for creativity, and that's what you do, and that's why I I look up to you because I
thanks,
and
brother.
you're very welcome, and I'm just so happy you're on this podcast, and
Well, we'll do it again when the book comes out, end of the
Yeah.
summer or early fall, whenever that
Neat.
is.
Something to look forward towards.
And
Greg, do you have anything else to say? Because I
No,
know
I was just-
Greg is he's new on the podcast, but Greg was actually one of our guests, and now he's one of our hosts, and
Yeah.
that's
much fun. It was, believe me, when they invited me back, I said, heck yes.
hell yeah, let's
Hell
do
yes.
it, and
Yeah.
and it's this camaraderie, it's this friendship among Disney people, and it's anyways we're having a good time. So
Yeah, very much
Mayor,
so.
thank you so much for being here again, and
you're welcome. Thanks for the invite. I always enjoy it. And well, thank you.
so we got our outro is Caitlin Robrock. She is Minnie Mouse, and she did our outro for us, and I am gonna share it. And I gotta pause it. Hold on.
Thank you for joining
nope.
us.
I never know how to do this live, but I'm gonna do my best. So I'm gonna do this. Share sound. Optimize. Let's try this. Here it is. Let's see if it works.
Cool.
Give me a thumbs up if you hear it. This is our outro.
I'm not hearing it.
And Caitlin is.
I can't hear anything, but I see the picture.
Well, no, here it is.
Thank you for joining us for another enchanting episode of Sharing the Magic. We have magical conversations that are crafted to your ears. The edutainment show where education and entertainment collide each week. We bring you whimsical interviews with Disney guests who share their magical experiences and reveal how they are woven into the Disney fabric. Don't forget to hit that follow button to stay updated on our latest episodes. Spread the word and let your friends know they can tune in wherever they enjoy their favorite podcasts. You can also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X, formerly Twitter, at @SharingTheMagicPod. Until next time, keep sharing the magic and rattle the stars.
Great.
Cool.
Hey, McNair.
Well,
thank you.
send me the link that I can post on Facebook.
Okay.
I assume you'll post the podcast somewhere.
It's already posted. We are on YouTube right now as we
Okay.
talk. So,
So is that the best place for them to go, is to YouTube and
Yeah.
put in Sharing the Magic?
Spotify.
yeah,
Yeah.
right now it is. Yeah, I'll tell you this. I'll copy the link for you right now.
Great. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Greg,
Lord.
reach out to
Lord.
Jaime for the poster.
I will.
Yeah.
And I'll tell him I got it from you. What,
Okay.
Greg, what's your last name?
Zayak.
Yeah, connect. You guys are awesome.
Cool.
All right, Greg. I'll see you later too, my friend.
Yeah.
All right, bye,
See you guys.
everyone.